Welcome to your Saskatchewan Common Ground Alliance news update. I'm your host, Jason Matity. Many of us who dig for a living probably feel like we must always be in a position where if we're not digging, we're not doing our job. But like any job, if you take the time to prepare for all possible safety challenges before that shovel or bucket goes anywhere near the ground or up in the air, it will go a long way to getting the job done safely for your employees, the public, and for your bottom line. Joining us now is Tyler Kuntz from FutureFence to talk about what procedure they use for identifying the hazards and risks before they begin the work. Welcome, Tyler, and tell us a little bit about your business.
Hi, Jason. We're a Regina-based company that has been supplying and installing PVC fence since 2007. We also offer do-it-yourself packages for customers to install their own fences.
So given the digging requirements for you and your customers, can you walk us through your pre-excavation plan?
It's critical to have a safe pre-digging plan in place. What we do as a company is follow the Saskatchewan Common Ground Alliance 5 steps to safer digging. Number 1, contact Sask First Call before digging. You must give no less than 2 days notice. 5 days is better. Give them the exact location of your dig site, what you intend to do, and the start date. You must also consider other nearby facilities that may not be registered with Sask First Call. Number 2, while you wait until all locates are completed, develop your work plan. White or black line your work area and identify any equipment, personnel, permits, or approvals required. Perform your hazard and risk assessment, including your emergency response plan. Number 3, locate accurately and ask yourself the following. Does the record of the locates match the work you are doing? Has the date expired? Do the colors match the locate color legend? Have all the companies that have been contacted responded to your request? Number 4, contact the owners of the underground or overhead infrastructure and make sure you understand any crossing agreements or approvals. Then perform your pre-job safety meeting with your staff and review the work plan, hazards, control measures, and emergency response. Finally, number 5, have there been any changes to the located area since your pre-work assessment? If so, contact Sask First Call. Make sure exposing is performed as required by facility owners and follow OH&S Regulations. Respect the required tolerance zones and make arrangements for any required site supervision. If any damage occurs, report it to the facility owner, and if it's an emergency, dial 911 or refer to your emergency plan. When the job is done, leave the work site neat and tidy, complete all documentation, remove and dispose of all stakes.
So why is it so important to identify hazards and risks before the work starts?
By being proactive and identifying the hazards and risks ahead of time, it allows you to put a plan in place to address the issues before they become dangerous.
Why must you ensure the appropriate steps are taken to dig safely around buried infrastructure?
Never assume you know where buried infrastructure is. If you don't have it marked, you can't safely work around it. It's really about making sure you or the public don't get hurt, or worse. This applies to everyone who is digging, including homeowners who would be putting up a fence on their own property. It's also about avoiding damage to infrastructure that can disrupt services such as phone, water, power, or gas. Safe digging isn't a one-time effort, it's a process. It starts with having a safe digging plan in place, and it ends with everyone going home safely at the end of the day.
Thank you very much for this, Tyler, and dig safe this season.
Thanks, Jason.
What do the colors mean? Get your safe ground disturbance checklist at scga.ca today. We know there are many things to think about before you begin your work. One company who has taken safety to another level is Proline Construction, based out of White City, Saskatchewan. Our junior reporter, Jason Matity, has their story. Thank you, Jason. I'm here with Blaine Tiefenbach and Hollis Coghill of Proline Construction. Just want to start by asking you folks, what do you do at Proline?
Well, what we do is underground construction.
Yeah, underground work, right from repair of utilities to new installation and excavating, hydrovac work, you name it, we can do it.
How do you approach every day with the mindset that you're not only going to work hard and get the job done, but get the job done safely?
What we do is when we start out the days, we come to the shop pre-plan before we start any work.
Safety with our company is approached as a team, and it has to be that way. I mean, we have to look out for each other, and the best way to look after myself is to look after the guy standing beside me too. So We work hard right alongside each other, long hours every day, and you build a bond pretty quick that way. Team is a good word, family's another.
If you're working at a site and the work area is within the tolerance zone of other buried infrastructure, what do you do to make sure that you're avoiding that and staying safe?
We get our first call, we get our locates, we get our secondary locates from anybody that's not on the list. Always try to identify to who's ever marking out our sites that this is where we're going, this is what we're doing.
Well, have you ever gotten to a site and the tolerance zone was incorrect, that there were things that were missed?
Yeah, there's been times where we've, been working in an area and then we've questioned maybe this doesn't feel right or it doesn't look right. So we've called back to first call and they're good about coming back out and double checking things for us. The scga has online resources that we can make use of, and it starts with visual inspection. If we're getting too close, we can't take shortcuts. Or if we're in an area of congested lines, because we can't dig through there with equipment or drill through there, we got to open up with a hydrovac and do things safely so we know exactly what's going on.
Communication with other utility owners that may be in these tolerance zone is a big focus for you folks. So I guess I'll just ask, why is it so important?
The utility owners are, for us at Proline, that's where the lion's share of our work comes from. When we're on a job site with their utilities, we need to communicate with them to keep us safe and as well as keep building that trust with them.
What advice do you guys have for anybody out there looking to improve their safety record or just stay safe on the job?
Don't take any shortcuts. Utilize the programs that are out there. First call. Get your lines located. Let the professionals come out, locate the lines for you. Don't take somebody's word on where they think the lines are or where you think the lines are.
Double check what the other people have done. If you see all the markings down on the ground, well, see what makes sense.
All right, Hollis and Blaine, thank you very much for your time. This break brought to you by Sask First Call. Whether you're a contractor, homeowner, or anyone doing work around underground infrastructure, contact Sask First Call before you begin your work. Always call or click before you dig. There are many reasons why it makes sense to work safe. To prevent injury and to prevent higher costs are reasons we hear most of the time. But have we ever considered all the consequences, especially when it comes to not following government rules and regulations? Joining us now is Chris Grief with Saskatchewan's Occupational Health and Safety Office to help us understand the rules. Thank you for joining us, Chris.
Thanks, Jason.
So what's new this year that anyone digging around infrastructure or working near overhead lines needs to be aware of?
It's really important that employers know about the prime contractor rules. These apply to the construction, forestry, and oil and gas industries. The owner can appoint a prime contractor or will assume this responsibility on certain multi-employer work sites. They have to coordinate the safety for all workers on that site. Before work begins, the prime contractor must develop a written safety plan to coordinate activities on the work site. They ensure that policies, procedures, and safe work practices are followed. While work is in progress, the prime contractor designates a person to oversee safety and ensure everyone complies with the written plan. Employers working on site need to notify the prime contractor of any changes that could impact safety. There are many things to consider when deciding if a prime contractor is required. Please check the regulations or call us to determine if you need one.
I understand there are provincial and federal requirements and approvals. How do I know when each apply, and how do I get the right information in either situation?
Most workplaces in the province are provincially regulated, but sometimes it's not always clear. It's the employer's duty to know which regulations, federal or provincial, apply to them. For example, provincial regulations require you to notify us when you are going to excavate or trench more than 5 meters deep if anyone will be working in the trench. If you're unsure, you can always call us at 1-800-567-7233 or our federal counterparts at 1-800-641-4049.
Other than giving you a call, Chris, where else can I go to get the latest regulations?
Absolutely, Jason. You can visit saskatchewan.ca and do a search for the Saskatchewan Employment Act or OH&S Regulations, or call us with specific questions. We will try to direct you to the appropriate regulation or safety association. Please keep in mind it can be difficult to provide an interpretation without attending the worksite.
So what are those real consequences if contractors or members of the public don't follow these rules?
The most real consequence of not following the regulations is that it puts yourself and others at risk of injury or worse. Workplace injuries are preventable. The laws are there to ensure minimum standards are in place to protect everyone while at work. To ensure those standards are met, we support workplace occupational health committees and conduct inspections. If someone is not in compliance, we have a few options. We can get the employer to enter a compliance undertaking, which is a written agreement that they will take corrective action in a set amount of time. We can issue a notice of contravention, which is a legal order to correct the contraventions found. We can issue a stop work order if we identify a serious risk. Some officers can issue summary offense tickets, which are similar to speeding tickets, and can be issued on the spot to employers and even to workers. Another option is to put forward a recommendation for prosecution. Prosecutions are handled by the Ministry of Justice and are dealt with in our provincial courts. Maximum fines for incidents causing serious injury or death are $500,000 for an individual and $1.5 million for a corporation, the highest in Canada.
Chris, people see the occupational health and safety officer walking over to their work site and they get concerned and nervous right away. I'm sure you're a great guy. How do you want to be perceived when you show up on site?
I think I'm a good guy too. Our role at Occupational Health and Safety is to regulate and enforce OH&S laws and to promote best safe work practices. Our goal is mission zero, so zero workplace injuries, zero fatalities, zero suffering. We are all responsible for safe and healthy workplaces. That includes myself. My job is to enforce regulations to help employers ensure that minimum standards are being met. When I come to your worksite, please know that I'm here to educate and promote safety. Please ask questions, and when I ask you questions, give honest answers. That is how we identify and correct hazards.
Thank you for this today, Chris.
What if the mission was zero? What if the mission was zero? Zero injuries, zero fatalities, zero suffering. Make zero your mission.
While we do everything in our power to avoid injury and property damage, it's a big part of your work plan to prepare for an emergency just in case. This preparation won't make it safer for just you and your employees, but also for emergency medical staff so they know what they are dealing with before they arrive on site. Joining me now is Jason Prokopets with STARS, and the first thing I wanted to ask you is, what does STARS do?
STARS is a not-for-profit organization that provides care and transport for the critically ill and injured.
Why should anyone who's working on or near underground infrastructure, or for that matter overhead lines, be really mindful about making sure they have a great emergency response plan, that they're thinking about it for their pre-game ritual, really?
Yeah, making that plan, identifying hazards, locations, and any other type of situations that kind of occur. It is not the time to be making plans while you actually have an emergency or a situation. The STARS Emergency Link Center is our STARS dispatch, and they can actually help you with all your needs. We do have a system in place that's called the remote site registration. It's built for companies and organizations that are as small as farmers or as big corporate industries. It's $6 a day. $150 a year to be registered. It provides us with all the information that we potentially need in a situation or a case of an emergency. It does give a good, accurate description of what's available for resources on site. If there's an AED present, what's the level of fire rescue if you do have it on site. The biggest thing is if you have that information that's there, the Link Center can give that information to responding EMS agencies as well.
Somebody hits underground infrastructure. It's clearly an emergency situation where they need EMS assistance. What do you tell them to do?
Please don't repair it. Get to a safe spot and provide as much information you can to 911. If you're registered through the STARS Emergency Site Registration Program, you can give them a placard number. If you're not, part of that pre-planning should include writing down directions how to get to that site. GPS coordinates are always a good thing to even give 911 dispatch, or just being prepared and having a good detailed plan and a direction on how to get to that site.
We thank Jason and STARS very much for helping us understand that planning ahead will help not only keep the injured safe, but our EMS personnel safer too, should an incident occur. Well, that wraps up this Saskatchewan Common Ground Alliance news update. I'm your host, Jason Matity, and remember, dig safe.